Hi, everyone, and happy Friday. Meteorologist Brittany Van Voorhees here with WCNC Charlotte. It was toasty and honestly more summer-like. If you were in Charlotte today, we had a high temperature of 91 at the airport. Now, this is not abnormal to see in Charlotte, as we do oftentimes see 90-degree temperatures into the month of September. Our average latest is September 12th, so that was last Friday. So again, seeing it today, the 19th, not abnormal. Last year, our latest was the 22nd, which is Monday. So this is very typical for this time of year. Now, if you were me, who was constantly complaining about the heat and humidity, I was hoping that we would not see 90, but alas, and we do have a small chance to see it again tomorrow. Lots of sunshine here across our camera network. That's brought to you by Mr. Sparky. You got Lake Norman, Charlotte, Dallas, North Carolina, Monroe. Everyone looks fantastic, but again, I wouldn't say everyone feels fantastic because we do still have that teeny bit of humidity. Is it as high as the peak of the summer? Absolutely not, but it is higher than where we were last week and the week before when we had that nice little taste of fall. Not expecting any rain here in the Charlotte area tonight. I will say there is some storm activity developing in parts of the mountains and west. Now, the mountain community have mostly seen rain where it has stormed. However, there are some lightning strikes, a bit more action there if you're over toward Asheville areas and north. So essentially some of the places most impacted by Hurricane Helene, if you're thinking geography-wise, seeing some storms out there right now. Not expecting, again, anything here in Charlotte tonight. There is a very small chance of a shower tomorrow. It'll truthfully be a blink and miss it kind of situation. Very, very brief. If you see rain, you'll be lucky. Lucky because we're under those drought conditions. But again, different story for a different day. I know Brad mentioned that a little bit last night here on Live Weather Impact. Sunday, very, very dry. A few more clouds in the afternoon, but it will feel better, which will be nice because we got a big game. Carolina Panthers at home for their home opener. So tomorrow, 20% chance of a brief shower, temperatures upper 80s to near 90. Sunday, mid 80s, so about 5 degrees cooler, and we will be drier, so there will be more sunshine. And of course, I mentioned that the Panthers home opener is on Sunday against the Falcons. 93 degrees back in 2019. That was the hottest Panthers home opener on record. Of course, since was it 1995? Yeah, that's the team's inception. So since 1995, 93. Thankfully, we won't be that hot at 85, but it won't be the coolest either, as we saw 69 in 2001, 2011, and 2014. Quick update here on the tropics. We have a tropical area of interest that just emerged off the African coast. It has a 20% chance of development. Again, just something we'll be watching and monitoring here over the next few days, over the next few weeks. I mentioned this, I think it was last week when I was filling in for Brad, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but when we get into the months of September and October, we shift our focus less from the central and eastern Atlantic basin, of course, unless the system moves westward, and a lot more so toward western Atlantic. Yes, of course, you think storms like Florence, right, that came off the western Atlantic. However, we really start to mix in more Western Caribbean as well as the Gulf. So a lot of the Atlantic basin is kind of early season, and then it's just Western Caribbean into the Gulf. So again, something that we'll be mindful of. I know Tim and I were going to talk a little bit more about this when we do get in to the main part here of the show, when we bring Chief Meteorologist Tim Buckley from WFNY. But 1 year ago today, the area of interest that would eventually become Helene had a 40% chance of development. And of course, we know that next Friday is the anniversary of the landfall in Florida, but next Saturday, the 27th, is the anniversary of when the storm impacted, of course, us here in the Western Carolinas. So just kind of interesting to see now that we can go back to those tropical weather outlooks that are archived and see that data. Of course, we did have our Gabrielle, our G named storm. The average, of course, is September 3rd, so a little bit late on Gabrielle and also late last year on Gordon. And as we know, Helene did form. So the area that eventually became Helene actually officially formed back on September 24th last year. We will definitely not hit September 24th, 25th, or probably even the 27th. So still probably behind 2024 at this point, because there's really nothing to worry about here in the near term. And again, Tim and I will talk more about that coming up here in just a few minutes. Here is our Jerry Hunt Supercenter 7-day forecast. Upper 80s to near 90 tomorrow. It's a doubleheader. Last two home games for the Charlotte Knights. It'll be a toasty one. Again, mid 80s and a little bit drier there on Sunday. And then the autumnal equinox actually is on Monday. So for those who don't celebrate meteorological fall like us meteorologists, there you go. Fall officially, quote unquote, beginning there. 2:19 in the afternoon. We keep it pretty warm through the middle part of the week. And then our next storm system, next chance for rain, comes in by the latter half of the work week. We are going to take a quick 2-minute break, and then we'll bring in Chief Meteorologist Tim Buckley and talk more about the weather. We love to see it. We'll be right back. There he is, the one, the only Tim Buckley.
Hello.
How's it going?
Good to see you, Brittany. How you doing?
It's great to see you as well. It's going. I actually had someone message me and say, "Where have you been?" And it feels like I wasn't here, but it really wasn't that bad. Because here's the deal. Brad was at that conference, so I was filling in for him. So I ended up having like my days off last Thursday, Friday. There's a hair on my nose. So if you see me keep going like this, I'm trying to get it off. Thursday, Friday was my weekend. And then I was off Saturday just for a wedding. And then my new days off are Sunday, Monday because of NFL schedule. So it just so happened to come across as if I had taken all this time off. So people, I missed you. I did not, abandon or anything like that. Wait, Tim, can we tell the people really quick before we talk about the weather what you texted me earlier about our new segments on the show?
So, you've always prided yourself on being able to talk to anybody or to anything. And so I said, the last segment today, you're going to just talk to the brick wall, and we'll just see what you come up with.
And your segment was?
And I'm going to talk about Josh Allen and why he's the best quarterback that's ever happened, and that the Bills are going undefeated. So that's what I'm going to talk about, I guess.
That is a bold claim.
Okay, I'm not as good at predicting football as I am at predicting the weather.
Yeah.
So
honestly, I don't think anybody can
write
predict
that
football
down.
like we can predict weather.
No, and they'll probably lose a couple games because they'll have everything clinched, and then they can just sit everybody for the last couple weeks.
All right, bold predictions from Tim
Jeff
Buckley.
is laughing.
I mean,
he doesn't believe me.
We'll
Go
see.
Bills, go Bills, break the tables. We believe. We believe. It was a good game yesterday.
Okay. We'll play the Panthers in the Super Bowl.
Yep.
Sorry.
Panthers going undefeated, 15-2. You heard it from Tim Buckley first.
That's right.
Goodness gracious.
There you go. Make the posters.
Well, I mean, if it's any indication, hopefully the Panthers will be hot on Sunday when they play, because it was hot today.
Yeah, so what are you thinking for Sunday, like during the game? Is it just going to be, like mid-80s or something?
Mid-80s. My current forecast is 82 or 85. So here's my issue with Bank of America Stadium. Beautiful stadium. Love it. But, Tim, you've been to BOA?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so if you're on the visitor side and it's in the middle of the day, you are straight in the sun. So in December, it's wonderful because it'll be like 50 degrees outside, but it feels like 65, 70 because of the direct sun. And then, of course, it goes down over the horizon and it feels like, it's freezing. But this time of year, it reminds me of like being in college at Florida. They call it a swamp for a reason. It's just so hot. So when you have 85 degrees on a home opener and then you're thinking afternoon, sun is beating down on you, depending on where you're sitting, it just can be miserable. So I would just make sure that people are checking their seats to make sure that they're not in the direct sunshine.
That's going to be tough. You guys have that great graphic that kind of shows you where the sun
I can actually
is. So if you're kind of picking out your seats and everything, I think that's super helpful. And like you said, this time of year you want to be out of the sun, but toward those December games you want to get right in there because. I don't know. Whenever you're at a football game, you're very aware of the weather around you. I went to a 25-degree football game in December last year, and I would have liked some of that sunshine. So this is super helpful. It looks like most people will be sweating it out, though, on Sunday.
Yeah, especially since the sunset isn't until, around 7:30 now, and so you have hours and hours of just sitting. But again, when it's December... I think it's December 27th, a few days after Christmas, they play the Falcons for the second time, I believe. Or no, they play the Seahawks maybe. I don't know. There's one game that I'm going to. I can't even remember. I didn't buy the tickets in December. And I was like, well, thank goodness it's going to be, we'll be straight in the sunshine. So.
Yeah, it could be a little worse, I guess. Tomorrow is going to be hotter. Saturday will be the hotter of the 2 days. But either way, even 75 and sunny at the football game can be a little hot. So.
Yeah, certainly can.
Deal with it.
How hot did you guys get today?
Yeah, so interestingly enough for us, it was our hottest day of the month, but even still, 88 is that number for us. So we haven't gotten to 90 since the end of August, which is pretty interesting, I think. It's probably going to be one of those years with a later than or an earlier than usual end to 90 degrees. So just a little number for us. We haven't done it since August 17th up in Greensboro, and that's the 10th earliest on record for us. So on average, we would still be hitting 90 somewhere in the middle of September. But we haven't done it this year, and just kind of weird for our area, but we had a bunch of 90s in July, couple in June, but August and September almost like a record few number of 90-degree days, Brittany. So probably similar for Charlotte, I'm guessing, but obviously a few more down that way.
Yeah, so we are very similar to y'all. Our last 90-degree day was on August 18th, so the day after, but we did hit 91 today, so it'll be the first time in about a month. Our average latest is September 12th, so obviously it's not necessarily abnormal for us to see this time of year, but we've definitely seen more 90-degree days than you guys, and a lot of this I think had to do with that big heat stretch in July, because we actually, the entire month of July, there was one day that was in the 80s, and that was the day Chantal made landfall, because remember, that's what broke our long streak of 90-degree days. So we have had 51, not including today, so I'll have to update this graphic. So 52, pretty close to last year, but very far away from our record. 1954. Actually, our record for today stems from 1954. Our record for September 19th is 97, but I cannot imagine in Charlotte almost having 190-degree days. Like, this summer was miserable.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That sounds worse.
And yeah, it's amazing, how years can be so different. And equally amazing is to have a year in 1967 with just 8. To have that few is also really amazing, too. We've only had 29 90-degree days this year. We only average about 33, though. So it's a big difference up and down I-85, oddly enough. Just a different climate up here by a little bit, I guess, in the summertime. Just a few degrees makes a big difference, I suppose.
I suppose it does. But when it's winter and we're like 34 and you're 32, then I'll be like, hee hee.
Yeah, I thought it felt pretty good today, to be honest with you. It didn't feel as hot to us, probably because of the dew points. We always talk about the dew points. Right now, they're in the mid-50s outside, so even if you are out and about, you're going to a high school football game, you're just walking out there, it's not too sticky to go along with the heat, not like mid-July or anything. So September 90s are different than July 90s.
Yeah, and honestly, at this point, I think that probably after tomorrow, I mean, looking long range, I feel like we keep saying that, but looking long range, it looks like it would very, very likely be our last, like, kind of big heat stretch, when it comes to 90. Do you know off the top of your head what y'all's latest 90-degree day ever is?
I do believe it's somewhere in October. I can find that out really quickly. I remember I wonder if you were working here yet or not, but there was an October a couple years ago. We had a terrible heat wave for like 3, 4, 5 days to start the month of October. And it wasn't just like 90, it was like 94, 95 for a couple of days. And that was tough to take. It might have been like 2021 or something.
Oh, maybe. I was here in 2021. I don't remember that off the top of my head, but there very well could be.
It was so hot.
Isn't it interesting?
So we've never done it in October or in November. Oh, yeah.
So it looks like
So anyway, for us, we've never hit 90 in November for our area. October, all the time, of course, we've done that.
Yeah, our latest is October 13th.
October 13th. Okay.
Yeah. I always say that I wonder if it was a Friday the 13th, but then I forget to look it up every single time the words come out of my mouth.
Oh, for us it was October 12th, so pretty similar.
Look at that. I think you're talking about October 2019, my friend, when the 2nd of October was 99 in Charlotte.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was 92, 99, 98, 97 the first 4 days. But look at this difference, 97 on October 4th and 78 on October 5th. So pretty big change.
Goodness, can you imagine almost hitting almost 100? That would just shatter the latest 100-degree record, right? That's crazy.
I don't even want to think about it. Well, we have other things to talk about than us just clacking around looking at climate data.
Yes.
What do you want to do? We want to chat Helene, where the storm was this time last year. Do we want to talk about Gabby? Do we want to talk viewer questions? I know we had a few that came in.
Yeah, well, we have Gabby out there right now. Maybe we can show the satellite quickly about Gabby. I do have it pulled up, Jeb, if you want. When we were talking about it yesterday and kind of the last couple of days, Brittany, Brad and I were kind of making fun of Gabby a little bit because it was so weak, honestly. I mean, it got designated after several days, and really it didn't look like much. But it was yesterday afternoon that it finally started to get some flare-ups right around the center of all these thunderstorms. And it's still a little bit lopsided, so for those watching, if you wanted a really healthy tropical storm or a healthy hurricane, ideally it would be symmetric around the center. So what we mean by that is kind of think of the way a donut is. If you have the hole in the middle, it's kind of a big circle all the way around. Right now, this is kind of a half. You've got about a half of it at this point. It'll probably strengthen a little bit more, but what this indicates to us is that there's kind of some shear kind of working its way into the storm or harsh winds, and that's been the case for several days. But Gabby is chugging right along. But there's no need to worry. This is never going to be a problem for anyone in the Carolinas. That path keeps it super far away from us. And kind of the one area to watch or that has some intrigue would be Bermuda. But the trends have been pretty good for them, too. This is where Bermuda is located. It looks like the current forecast cone is about 150 miles away at minimum to 400 miles at maximum. So they should mostly be all right, too. They'll keep an eye on it. But even us here at home, we probably won't have a single impact with rip currents or waves or anything like that, it doesn't seem like.
Yeah, no, I think Gabrielle's way, way, way too far away for that. Of course, we have the new tropical area of interest just emerged off the coast of Africa. Really a non-issue for us right now. I think we talked about this last week, Tim, but that we obviously always watch the Atlantic, but as we get into late September and early October, there's a few more spots that we watch a lot, which often is the Western Caribbean and the Southern Gulf, of course, which I think is an interesting, point to make because of Helene.
For sure. And this time last year, Brittany, and we actually played a clip of you the other day. I guess it was during a hurricane special that y'all did during the peak. And right toward the end of it, you were giving that first outlook of, hey, here's a new system that might start to form. And that was the initial little area of interest that eventually ended up becoming Helene. And so 1 year ago today, the outlook had about a 40% chance of something forming in the Caribbean and in the Southern Gulf. So as you see on the graphic here, that's where Helene got its start. It was one of these Caribbean and Gulf storms.
Sorry, it's hard looking at that sometimes. We just did a talk back with the National Weather Service yesterday, just about how covering the storm was, what improvements, that they're looking back on, things like that. So it's just hard sometimes to think about where we were this time last year, way before we knew what was going to happen. So, but I think it just notes. Go for it. I was just going to say, it notes the time of year, though, is that even though there's nothing to watch, we still need to keep our ears up and not put blinders on just because we're getting close to the end of September.
It definitely does. And to me, it also, this is only about 8 days at this point, only about 8 days before the true devastation had already happened. So it just goes to show you how much everything can change in your world in about 8 days, like a week. This is basically just a week. So that's pretty wild. We didn't even have a formed tropical system, and then a week later, the whole western part of the state was totally changed. So it's nothing to kind of stress over too much here, but it just goes to show you that we should always be somewhat prepared in hurricane season, and that would include this year. There's no big threat right now anywhere, but it only takes a week of change that can really make a big difference.
Yeah, actually, I don't know if you remember, but we had one of the weather IQs that I did a few months ago. One of the data points that came out when the NHC NOAA did their first outlook of the year was that every Category 5 to ever hit the United States. So we got Andrew, Michael, of course, now the names reveal me. You might know.
Camille.
Yes. And then there's one more. Of course, there's
Michael.
now, but essentially, every Category 5 that's ever hit the United States was a tropical storm or less 3 days before.
Wow. Oh, so that's stunning. And really, we probably haven't talked about it too much this year. Rapid intensification is a thing that we see a lot more in recent years. And Helene was one of those that really got from a pretty weak storm to a pretty strong storm very, very quickly. And the problem with that, like you were just saying, is it doesn't give you a lot of time to prepare or mentally. We talked about this with the Katrina look back, how the cone shifted a lot, and so people didn't have a lot of time to prepare mentally. When you have a storm that really intensifies pretty quickly, too, it's the same thing. You need to be prepared for changes that can happen.
Mm-hmm. It was 1935 Labor Day. That's why I forgot it, because it didn't have a name.
Gotcha.
That
Okay.
hit South Florida, yeah.
We did have a viewer question, I believe, this was from a couple of days ago, but someone was wanting to know, how come it's the fall rather than summer, which makes for more busy hurricane season? And most of the reason is it's not the heat necessarily. The water is pretty warm everywhere by August, but it has to do with more favorable winds, right, Brittany? So we have less wind shear and overall just better conditions.
Yeah, and like the steering currents, again, they can change on a dime, but they typically favor a more westerly pattern this time of year. So if you're thinking a storm making it all the way across the Atlantic or a storm making it all the way through the Caribbean, then obviously that pattern can support that too. I did think this was funny just because it's different every year. We just said October was 99 in 2019, but someone else also asked, when will this warm weather end? When will it be into the 70s? And my response was October, hopefully, in air quotes.
I think so. Now, the exception might be if you have rain, right? Like you could have some 70-degree days, but looks like we'll have to wait a little while.
Yeah, we certainly will. Well, Tim, I hope you have a great weekend. Of course, it's Friday, y'all. We will be back all week long next week with more Helene coverage as well, because, of course, it is the week leading up. And also an interesting live weather impact on Monday, too. Tim, of course, you'll be here with Becca Birdsall, and we'll have Brad live in the mountains. But it's also the 36th anniversary of Hurricane Hugo. So we'll have a lot, hopefully, to kind of look back on from that storm as well.
All right, sounds good.